Hello. If you've visited before, thanks for coming back. If you're new here, welcome. Check out my channel intro to get acquainted. This is the fourth video in my series on HACCP. If you missed the three previous ones, you can find a link to the whole HACCP playlist in the description below. My name's Pierre-Antoine, and I'm still your guide on this HACCP journey. First, let's repeat our HACCP principles together on go. 1, 2, 3, go. Hazard analysis. Identification of critical control points, establishment of critical limits, monitoring procedures, corrective action, record keeping, and verification procedure. If it feels like we've done this 4 times already, you're right, we have. So far we've applied the first 4 principles of HACCP. Most recently we were talking about setting critical limits for factors at a critical control point and monitoring them. Those factors were things like time, temperature, or pH. At some point, you'll record the temperature of a meat product or measure the pH of a beverage you're producing, and the value is not going to be what you expected. The temperature is below your critical limit. The pH is above your critical limit. What do? This is where HACCP principle number 5, corrective action, comes into play. When a critical limit is surpassed or exceeded, you need to have a clear plan of action for what to do next. You should start by recording a new measurement taken by a different operator to confirm that the critical limit was exceeded. If the new measurement shows that the original might have been a fluke, take a new measurement just to confirm and then go back to business as usual. However, if a new measurement confirms that there's a problem, then you need to take corrective action. Your corrective action plan will depend on the product and the issue at hand. It will include steps to take with the affected product, what to do with equipment that might have been affected, and determining steps to take to minimize the risk of it happening again. First, you'll have to determine what to do with the affected product. That will change depending on the type of monitoring that you do. If you use periodic monitoring with a frequency of, say, once an hour, you have to remember that you don't have any information for the product since your last recording an hour ago. In this case, the best corrective action would be to discard the whole production for the last hour or rework it if your process flow indicates that it's safe and possible. If you use continuous monitoring, you'll have to judge how much needs to be discarded from before and after the critical limit was exceeded. How much product is discarded will depend a lot on the type of production line and what's being monitored. For instance, in a restaurant, a chicken breast that doesn't register 165 Fahrenheit for 5 seconds when it comes out of the oven can always be put back in the oven to cook a little longer until it registers the correct temperature. That is not always possible on a production line. Second, you need to deal with affected equipment. If an unsuitable or unsafe product has passed through any equipment, that equipment needs to be cleaned and sanitized. This will change a lot depending on the production that you have, so make sure you use procedures that make food safety sense. If your line involves cooking, for example, and your critical limit is determined with time and temperature, then everything that's before the cooking step doesn't need a complete cleanup. Finally, you'll need to take steps to minimize the risk of the same thing happening again. This may mean a reassessment of hazards, a revision of procedures, or something else entirely. Once you've thought about all of that, write it down and then incorporate it in your HACCP plan or your prerequisite programs. With that in place, you'll need to train your operators on CCP monitoring and how important it is to take action when critical limit is exceeded. I highly recommend practicing mock critical limit breaks. You don't have to throw anything away, but it gives your staff a chance to walk through all the steps of corrective action. Keep in mind that when a critical control point is in need of corrective action, it needs to be addressed quickly. Sometimes you'll have to take action on a whole production lot. The faster you address the issue, the less you'll have to correct. Next up, in our final video in the HACCP series, we'll wrap things up with record keeping and verification procedure. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then.